Thank you for being here today. Lyle Johnstone, 1044 Eden Road, Eden, Idaho. This line comes through within a mile and a half of my house, Jerome County. Comprehensive plan is not up to state statute. I realize that's not exactly the PUC's problem, but I would think that Great Basin Power or Idaho Power would have made sure that all of those I's were dotted and T's were crossed before they decided to apply for a build permit. The SWIP-N North line is, as we know, 500 kilovolts. 80% of that is basically set apart for north to south flow. And I realize electricity flows both ways. As has been mentioned previously, we just lived through a long battle on Lava Ridge. This is a great gateway project to open up every piece of federal land to a lawsuit and a build of either wind spinners or solar projects, of which we want either one. Small nuclear reactors are coming, they aren't here yet, and yet we have people wanting to build multiple SNRs in our desert to ship power on this SWIP line, not Idaho, but other parts of the West. So the West, the southern flow to Ely and then into California ties into CASA, California's green machine. And so why isn't California building their own projects to supply their own power? If it ties into CASA, it is then governed by a committee or board that is appointed by the California governor, of which is currently is a questionable repute. And so then we go into WEIN, W-E-I-N. They control what goes where in power, when, how much, and how it gets traded. They have 22 partners. One of my questions would be, any one of these 22 partners that Idaho Power may or may not buy from, even without the SWIP line, will that tie us into WEIN, which then takes away the governing ability of who gets what power, when, and for what price? That for me, ties into Article 11, Section 18, that Representative Levitt already read. That seems to me is against constitutional law in the state of Idaho, period, end of story. I don't think there's even a question about that. I have heard in previous meetings lots of conjecture about things that we speak about. So conjecture would be green energy. Idaho Power's green energy by 2045, which the governor has adopted, is conjecture that it's better, that it's lower carbon footprint. And in reality, when we build big projects of wind turbines, solar power, and that becomes a necessary supply line, we still have to have base load backup, correct? And let's quit the green energy stupidity and build base load backup to begin with, which is basically what Idaho Power is going to end up having to do. And let's not tear up the entire environment in Idaho. And we don't have a real need for 400 kilovolts of north to south transmission. This project affects my home. I was not aware of that when I bought that home. Jerome County has basically worked over everybody that lives within that 6 mile wide strip of land. I'm within a mile and a half of it. And I've heard most of the arguments from the green energy salespeople, from Great Basin in different meetings. This is a bad project for Idaho, end of story. It's an export line more than an import line. And so, how do we meet the need? You know, pretty simple. If we weren't making Idaho the new home of AI centers, would be one of the main things. When we're funneling a whole city's worth of power usage into one building, so that they can track us and watch us and play games. So, you know, if they wanna build here, let them build their own power, let them build their own transmission line. Or you can rent them the transmission line, which the SWIP line in itself is a profit-making center, because every kilowatt that goes north or south, somebody pays LS Power for that transmission capability. I'll stand for questions.
Questions? Thank you, sir. We appreciate your testimony.